Dear participants, welcome to join us for this first webinar of the series co-organized by ESCAP, International Chamber of Commerce and Asian Development Bank. We start the first webinar with a significant topic for the cross-border paperless trade facilitation, the interoperability of the single window systems. Considering as well that the global economy needs any further fostering measures to recover quickly, the single window systems and the future of the interoperability is seen as one of the most efficient trade facilitation tools so far and can play a paramount role to facilitate further the cross-border trade. On this short note, let me quickly mention about the format of the webinar that we are going through. We will start with the opening remarks from the co-organizers, inviting some excellent speakers to make the opening remarks. Afterwards, we will proceed with the first session dedicated to the best practices from the Asia-Pacific region, namely from the Korean Republic, Singapore, and Indonesia. The presentations from the national perspective will be followed by the panel interventions from the experts that are involved in different projects for implementing single window systems on national and as well implementing the interoperability on the international level across the borders. You are all welcome to raise your questions to the speakers and to the panelists. We have a dedicated appropriate time slot for the Q&A session. Please type all your questions in the dedicated section of the Q&A on the Zoom platform, and we will pick up similar questions and raise it. The moderator will raise it to the speakers and to the panelists. Now let me quickly introduce the interventions for the opening remarks. Mr. Jan Duval from ESCAP, Chief of Service Economic Affairs, Mr. Andrew Wilson from the International Chamber of Commerce, Global Policy Director and Permanent Observer to the United Nations, and Mr. Jong Woo Kang from the Asian Development Bank. He is Principal Economist at the Economic Research and Cooperation Department of the ADB. Now, I would like to invite the opening remarks, our speakers to make their intervention.
On behalf of the Trade, Investment and Innovation Division at ESCAP, a very warm welcome to all of you to this new webinar series on accelerating cross-border paperless trade facilitation. As you are well aware, ESCAP has a long-standing program on trade facilitation and digitalization. Many of the economies in our region have used trade as a key engine of development and are trying to cut costs and streamline trade procedures to remain competitive. The result of the 2021 UN Global Survey on Digital and Sustainable Trade Facilitation, which will launch next week, shows that countries have continued to make progress in this area despite the COVID-19 crisis. In fact, the COVID-19 crisis has further increased interest in trade digitalization and automation, as both can make it easier to keep trade going during the pandemic. That said, efforts to digitalize trade procedures are really not new, and some of the countries in Asia-Pacific were leaders in this area, having put in place trade single window systems back in the 1990s. A long-standing and growing problem that they face is that while many trade documents and processes are now exchanged electronically within a country, these documents are not recognized across borders, and paper documents are still required as a result. There are many technical, legal, and capacity issues that need to be addressed, all requiring close and sustained intergovernmental cooperation. The good news is that ESCAP member states realized the need for cooperation really early, and they negotiated and adopted a treaty on cross-border paperless trade facilitation in 2016. So fast forward to 2021, February 2021 to be exact, the treaty has now entered into force. So it is time to prepare for its swift implementation. ESCAP has facilitated national readiness assessment already for paperless trade in nearly a dozen countries in the region, And this new webinar is just one more initiative to harness the existing knowledge and expertise needed to really accelerate implementation of paperless trade systems in the region, but also beyond the region. So with no further ado, let me thank ICC and ADB for collaborating on the webinar series, and also very special thanks and appreciations to all our speakers today who are going to share their knowledge with us on single window interoperability in this very first webinar. Thank you.
Colleagues, many thanks for making the time to tune into today's event. My name is Andrew Wilson. I'm the Global Policy Director at the International Chamber of Commerce. On behalf of ICC, I'm delighted to have the opportunity to launch the ESCAP ICC ADB webinar series on accelerating cross-border paperless trade facilitation. It is, to my mind, fitting that our three organizations are co-organizing this important series. What we all share quite clearly is a long-standing commitment to enabling paperless trade. At ICC, we engage on this agenda in several different ways. To give you just a few examples, first, through the ICC Digital Standards Initiative, we're working with businesses large and small to accelerate the adoption of common digital standards for paperless trading. Second, through the Global Alliance for Trade Facilitation, we're working with many emerging market governments to implement effective digital customs reforms. And finally, in our interactions with governments, as I'm sure many of you are already aware, we're consistent champions of adoption of legal reforms to enable paperless trading, most fundamentally adoption of UNCITRAL's model law on electronic transferable records. Through this webinar series, we will cover emerging issues and trends related to the facilitation of cross-border paperless trade, including the use of advanced technologies for harmonization and simplification, enhanced public-private sector partnerships, and finally, the digitalization of trade documents. The Asia-Pacific region has clearly done a tremendous job, and we commend you all for this, in implementing digital trade facilitation reforms in response to the stresses and strains caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's our hope that this series will serve to highlight opportunities ahead on this agenda for the Asia-Pacific region, and also take stock of some of the progress that's been made importantly to date. Thank you very much indeed to ESCAP and ADB for their collaboration and partnership on this project, and also thank you, the viewer, for your engagement and work on this critical agenda. We look forward to working with you in the months and years ahead. Thank you.
Good afternoon, good morning, and good evening. Welcome to the inaugural webinar on cross-border paperless trade facilitation in the Asia-Pacific region, jointly hosted by ESCAP, ICC, and ADB. The COVID-19 pandemic induced a 5.3% trade contraction last year, and more importantly, exacted large human and economic tolls in terms of lost lives, bankruptcies, and job losses, among others. Given the importance of trade facilitation and digital trade, ensuring of global trade and economic growth, we are very pleased joining efforts with ESCAP and ICC with this new webinar series to shed light on various crucial issues in this area. We have several interesting, important topics in line for the months to come to discuss how we can accelerate cross-border paperless trade facilitation. Among those topics, I look forward to today's discussions on the progress in single window implementation, the lessons that we have learned so far, and how we can progress from there. Economic crises have shown us that keeping international markets open is critical for economies to recover. Part of these efforts includes measures that facilitate trade at the border, including through national and regional single windows. Their benefits comprise faster clearance and reduced costs, increased integrity and transparency, enhanced security, improved trader compliance, and more accurate revenue yields and beyond. It would also be interesting to see how single windows relate to all the other border agencies like customs, agricultural, health, police, quarantine, immigration, and standards, and how national single windows can be expanded to the regional level. I'm sure today's session will prove interesting and enlightening and look forward to fruitful and lively discussions. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you very much for these interventions from our excellent representatives from the co-organizer organizations. Very happy to hear about the emphasis that we hear from them, and we hope that those emphases will be taken care during the discussions, and also by the participants. We will be able to raise some important questions regarding the single window interoperability and how it can support further the cross-border trade. Now let me go to the next session, where we have the sharing of the best practices from the national perspective on national interoperability, as well, of course, with emphasis to the international interoperability. Let me start introducing the first speaker from Singapore, Ms. Angie Teo, the head of the International Relations Singapore Customs. She's going to share with us the latest, let's say, updates, upgrades from the Singapore Customs relating to the single window. As you know, that Singapore Customs is one of the pioneers regarding the single window implementations. We are very much happy to have her and to share with us their experience. Thank you. Mr. Angie, you can share your screen and start the presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Arman. Very good afternoon to everyone who's present here today. I'm Angie. Like what Arman has said, I head the International Relations branch in Singapore Customs. And my core function of the branch, apart from negotiating some of the FTAs that you see, is also to actually negotiate some of the, what you would see later, G2G connection between our national single windows and that of other countries. So today I will give you an update or a sharing on our network trade platform, which some of you might already know, as well as some of the ongoing initiatives that we have with some of our partners. All right, next slide, please. Yeah, so what you see today, what you see now in this slide is really a snapshot of what our trade processes are like currently. So if you are in this industry, I'm sure you know that in any typical supply chain, international trade itself typically involves up to 25, actually no, it's minimally 25 parties, could be more, 30 to 40 trade documents generated among these parties, in which 60 to 70% of information are manually re-entered at least once. So such information includes things like maybe bill of lading number, it could be HS codes, it could be item description, you name it, we have it. So there are many item descriptions, many fields that are actually repeatedly used. And some of the stakeholders, for example, people down the supply chain, be it importers or exporters, freight forwarders, will always have to key in these numbers and this information over and over again. So this was actually the problem statement that Singapore Customs was trying to solve when we looked at the efficiency of the supply chain. Next slide, please. So with that, our then Minister for Finance and our DPM launched what we call the Network Trade Platform. So I think many of you would have known TradeNet. And of course, in order to evolve from TradeNet, we have actually launched the Network Trade Platform, which is a transformational platform that actually takes us away from the traditional national single window, which gives traders a one-stop interface for all trade-related regulatory transactions, to what we have today, which is a one-stop interface that will enable us to interact with all business partners, stakeholders, and as well as regulators on all trade-related transactions. So this will, we feel, will fundamentally solve the issue of repeated data entry and also repeated calls for documents, and of course eliminate the need for paper or hard copy documents. And going forward, we must also continue, like what our DPM have said, to work towards greater connectivity, especially with our key trading partners around the world, many of you whom are in this session today. And our vision is to be a truly global network which helps to enable the efficient flow of goods and services, and linking it to a secure flow, even to a secure flow of financing, and also facilitated by a swift exchange of data. So we believe that this can actually help the various parties to work together to achieve this same vision. Next slide, please. So for our network trade platform, we have two areas, key focus areas. And the first one, of course, is in terms of enhancing trade efficiency by going digital with document digitization and data reuse. So what are we trying to do on NTP? Really is to store and manage trade documents and data easily and securely, because I think one of the issues now that we are quite worried and we are grappling with, of course, is cybersecurity. We do want to be able to safely transmit and store as well as exchange data on a global platform. So going on to by launching the NTP, we also aim to be able to do that safely and securely. We also want to save time on data entry and improve data accuracy by reusing and sharing what is already inside the trade document. And of course, at the end of the day, we would want to collect all this digital data across the trade ecosystem so that we can analyze and even maybe find trends that can help to further facilitate trade globally. So on the right-hand side of the slide, you can see an example of how data can be reused on the NTP. So for example, a commercial invoice. In a commercial invoice, you would likely have information like our even the value of goods and also price and things like that. So we can actually fulfill customers' orders faster and accurately by sharing this information onward to freight forwarders. We can also help to facilitate some of the invoice factoring, or we can even reuse some of this information for permit declarations by leveraging on what we have, which is a permit prep service. So this is how actually we are trying to make use of document digitization in order to promote data reuse. And we need documents to be in digital format in order to do this. So this is the basis of NTP, right? The second key focus area will be covered in the next slide. So the second focus area will be to connect with the wider trade ecosystem seamlessly. So just now I was talking about sharing that data internally with our freight forwarders, with our banks and various parties. But beyond that, we also want to open up our trade ecosystem to connect with the rest of the world. So how do we do it? Of course, in terms of, because I'm from customs, I will talk about customs first. So for customs to customs connection, the key would be to actually connect our national single window with the national single window of other customs administration. Because in any kind of trade transaction, the first point of contact is always customs. You need to make that declaration in order to get your goods moving. So it's important for the regulatory authorities to link up with each other. And how does that actually help? What we want to do here is also to share that data. For example, the export data from Singapore side could then be used as the import data for our foreign counterparts in their national single window system in order for it to be used as part of the import declaration data. So that would actually cut down the amount of time that you need to key in and re-key in data just to make that declaration cross borders. And of course, apart from foreign customs, we also want to create that gateway to link up to other foreign traders, shipping lines, trade financing, and even our overseas business partners so that they can actually apply for trade-related e-services directly with Singapore Customs and collaborate seamlessly with their overseas counterparts. So that is the vision. Some of these things are already on NTP, has gone live. For example, the application of electronic bankers guarantee is already gone live. Some of our connections with our foreign counterparts are also live already. So such things, such services can already be used on the NTP. Right, next slide, please. Okay, so in terms of G2G, since I'm from the customs background, some of the things that we cover in terms of exchange of regulatory trade documents, in fact, there's only, usually there's only 4. I can't think of any other thing except these 4. The most important thing is the import and export declaration. I think earlier I've also mentioned through data mapping and referencing, we allow actually the data from our export declaration to be reused as an import declaration data. So that removes the need for repeated manual data entry. The second document is the e-sanitary and phytosanitary certificates, or in short, the ESPS certificates. So these certificates actually are meant for like animal, plant health, or even food certs and things like that. Exchanging such certificates in electronic format helps us to reduce processing checks and lowers the risk of fraudulent certs and import control failure. Because one of the things, most common things that we do hear from our customs counterparts is that, oh, sometimes the goods might be intentionally misdeclare or things like that. But with electronic exchange of data and documents, we actually eliminate such fraudulent declaration, because that data is actually from source. So what is declared to Singapore is similarly declared to say Malaysia or anywhere else in the world that we connect to, right? So the third certificate is actually our ePref cert of origin, which is in short the e-cert of origin. So again, currently, I think those of you who have to apply for COs in your course of work, in your supply chain, you would know that it's still quite manual. I think some countries still require like a hard copy kind of cert of origin. Korea has to go and pick it up from a customs office, a printed copy of the document, and then put it together with your shipments, and then you ship it out together with your goods. Or it could be after the goods have been shipped out, then you courier over the documents, the hard copy documents. So what we have done is actually to do away with these hard copy documents, do away with the need to actually pay a courier to pick up the printed documents, and directly send this ECO to our counterpart. And this service actually has gone live with China under what we call the EODES. My last slide will also cover some of this live service with our foreign counterparts. And the final cert is actually has also gone live, and that is the electronic cert of non-manipulation. Again, that is with China. So the exchange, this service actually exchange approves DNMs, and this will help to improve security and enable faster facilitation and verification of the ECNMs. Again, this is a document that some of you might need, some of you do not need. So again, these are things that we have increasingly layered onto our NTP in order for our traders, our businesses to be able to enjoy the services. Right, next slide. Yeah, so I believe, okay, this is my second last slide. Just a snapshot of what we have done so far and whom are we going to actually work with in G2G aspect. So for currently, we have actually signed a letter of intent with the United States to explore single window connectivity with them. Also with our counterparts in the Netherlands, Australia, Chile, New Zealand, Indonesia, and of course, I think many of you would know ASEAN, in our ASEAN member states, there's a live exchange of Adiga Form D via our ASEAN single window since December 2019. So again, this is quite a breakthrough for our ASEAN member states, because this has already gone live, and this is actually our COs, in other words, our ECOs in the ASEAN context. And we have also recently gone live for the exchange of our customs declaration document via also our ASEAN single window gateway. And we have also gone live for our customs transit system since November last year. This is for the transit of goods via land among at least 3 ASEAN member countries. Okay. And then, of course, with China, as I've said earlier, we have already gone live for the electronic origin data exchange system in November in 2019. So this is already what we are doing. So if you are interested in the EODES, do drop customs an email if you want to know how you can make use of this. But this is currently only for the leg from Singapore to China and China to Singapore, vice versa. So the rest of the countries we are working at linking up with them. It is not a straightforward process, because of course we have to map our data with them. What we require to fill in for our export or import declaration data might not be the same as that of, say, US, Chile, or New Zealand. And we will continuously add on to this list of G2G connectivity, so that our businesses will be able to enjoy a seamless declaration process, and definitely an electronic paperless environment. All right, my last slide, please. So I think our role as customs have shifted fundamentally over the years, from a very, very traditional kind of revenue protector role to what we want to be known as, which is a global trade facilitator kind of role that is interconnected with the rest of the world. Because we believe that we have to move on. Yes, TradeNet has been quite a breakthrough, but that was 1989. So we have to evolve, and what we want to evolve into is to be that interconnected with the rest of the world. Starting with our single window, expanding to ASEAN single window, and of course then to the world. So that is how our role has evolved. We will continue to adapt to evolving industry needs, given the trend of digitalization and automation in the supply chain ecosystem, even as regulatory authority, we will have to catch up because businesses are running faster than us and we can't be left behind. If there's any good thing that actually came out of the COVID-19 crisis, I must say that in the customs fraternity, I think we have seen a lot of a lot of acceleration in terms of going digital. The take-up rate of electronic measures is unprecedented. I think we are seeing many customs administrations who are really working very hard. I think together with me today, there's Malaysia as well as Indonesia, and also Korea Customs. I think all of them has been very forward-looking in terms of digitalizing their trade documents. So these are some of the things that I think moving forward, this is the kind of regulatory environment that the businesses can look forward to seeing. More digital and definitely more efficient. Yeah, that's the end of my presentation today. Thank you. I welcome any questions through the Q&A channel. Thanks. Back to you, Arman.
Thank you very much, Mr. Angie. It was very insightful and interesting presentation from the Singapore perspective. The different approach regarding the interoperability with the gateway and the bilateral approach for the interoperability. Also heard some emphasis regarding the challenges that are still there for the interoperability and the efforts of the different countries on bilateral level that all are very forward looking to approach those challenges. With this quick note, let me go directly to the next speaker, and I would like to invite Ms. Mi-Young Kim, ICT and Data Management Division of the Korean Customs Service. Ms. Mi-Young is involved with the implementation of the single window from the Korean Customs, and she's going to share with us also on the international level, the Korean Customs perspective, how we are dealing with the interoperability. Ms. Mi-Young, please, your floor. Floor is yours.
Thank you, Arman. Appreciate it. I really appreciate you and ESCAP and ICSA for giving me this opportunity to participate in this valuable discussion. I highly expect that I will learn various viewpoints about single window interoperability. I'm going to talking about how we can overcome these difficulties from Corona pandemic by utilizing the single window environment. In this current situation, we all have difficulties. Nobody has ever met with this unusual situation or knows the method of handling it. However, we are overcoming the troubles and quickly adjusting ourselves to these unusual situations. In this pandemic, all the processes and relationships that are made by physical contacts and links became the risk factors to be able to spread the coronavirus. We are in the circumstance that requires extremely restricted physical contacts. Before the pandemic, we pursued fully connected and linked processes and environments in all areas. However, due to the pandemic, if there are physical factors in the tightly connected environment, there will become risk factors to spread virus. Therefore, in these circumstances, to maintain business process as usual, the importance of decentralized environment has increased. To avoid the disconnection of the processes, we should handle them in the digitalized environments, and we expect that the digitalization will provide a reliability to web processes. From the perspectives of customs regarding the COVID pandemic, we have to work for proper services to protect the border and facilitate trade as well. I think we are able to continue to play a role as a government during this crisis because customs has pursued digitalizations. All customs have been trying to digitalize all processes of customs work by eliminating paper documents and establishing systems to handle business processes automatically. And we have always considered technology as a tool for our development. When it comes to digitalization, we customs may definitely recall a single window environment. It is that environment we expect will recover the connectivity that has been lost from this pandemic. The ways of establishing single window can differ, but in the process of making single window is to make latest stakeholders participate in single window and to provide a system environment by linking or integrating other environments. The more single window covers broad business areas and participants, the more foreign systems will connect to single window. As a result, how single window provides a single environment for various stakeholders means how well connected systems of different natures are. In this regard, how we can improve single window interoperability decides the eminence of single window. Korea Customs has made many efforts to handle interoperability in a single window environment. Korea Customs has our e-clearance system, UniPass. Our UniPass system provides a single window environment. From the perspective of stakeholders, UniPass provides an integrated environment to handle work for clearance. The environment is operated by connectivity with other systems, and to work as an integrated system, UniPass exchanges electronic documents with other systems. That's the way of communicating with between systems. To explain our experiences on single window interoperability, I will talk about two parts of our UniPass. One part is a national single window to handle the work for cross-border regulatory agencies, and the other is international connectivity for cross-border data exchange. Cases single window for cross-border regulatory agency streamline the business processes for clearance. The system is to simplify business processes of clearance between regulatory agencies. Before establishment of our single window system, in order to import or export, the clearance should visit regulatory agencies in person or visit their systems. And after getting the approval from regulatory agencies, then they can submit the import and export declarations to customs. However, through the single window system, declarants can submit all applications to regulatory agencies, and they can get the results from the single window system. And after getting the approval, they can submit declarations without submitting duplicated information. That means the process between regulatory agencies is simplified, and the declarants don't need to submit the same information for clearance. It's the integrated and streamlined business processes and system environment. The processes in single window to handle the clearance can be made by exchanging electronic documents between regulatory agencies. In order to make electronic documents between government agencies, we harmonize data. We analyze all data elements of the declaration for regulatory agencies and make an integrated data set having no duplicated data elements, and by eliminating data elements having the same meaning. That's the way of harmonizing data sets for regulatory government agencies. This integrated data set has harmonized the research data model, and by using the harmonized data set, the XML documents between regulatory agencies were designed. In 2016, the single window system launched with 8 regulatory agencies, and currently all regulatory agencies are using our single window system. XML documents for more than 40 applications, over 26 agencies are handled through single window systems. Message protocol is a web service SOAP, and security protocol is SSL, and all XML documents designed based on WCO data model. All agencies who want to connect our single window system should follow the specification for connecting that way the career customs test. I think the process of exchanging data between regulatory agencies, our regulatory agencies, is ideal. All documents were designed as integrated data sets harmonized by the WCO data model, and the protocol of exchange message is the same. The environment is operating as an optimized method. The reason why our single window system can have such high interoperability is because other agencies follow the method of exchange data we suggested, and they followed our method because the way of building the system was led by career customs. We built and have been operating the systems, and we can suggest the standard. And after starting the system with 8 agencies, in accordance with increasing usage of the system, other agencies voluntarily participate in the single window by following the related setup environment. However, the case of exchanging electronic documents between countries is a little bit different. KCS has been exchanging data with other countries. We have been struggling to connect our unified system to other countries' single window systems. Since 2000, we have conducted several pilot projects for cross-border data exchange with Malaysia, Philippines, Australia, with our trials to discover difficulties that can occur in the process of exchanging data with other countries, and to test the technical method and business areas where the data subject to be sent belongs, and also how the received data will be used. After several trials, we started the cross-border data exchange. CO data was chosen as the data to be exchanged. The object of exchanging CO data is to facilitate trade by simplifying the process of clearance, as eliminating or simplifying the process to verify CO. In the process of importation, there were bottlenecks for delivering CO paper documents from export countries to import countries. And after receiving CO documents, the processes for verifying authenticity of paper documents consumed much time, and that caused unnecessary trade cost. These burdens are mostly from paper documents. Therefore, by exchanging electronic documents, we want to increase reliability of data and reducing unnecessary burdens in the process of trading. There are very practical, and these are very practical and clear goals of cross-border data exchange. And this goal is one of the salient factors for successful cross-border data exchange. The simplification of business processes can be realized in an agreement between countries that contain the clear business processes about exchange data and what the countries want to achieve from exchange data. Legal basis is also one of the conditions to conduct cross-border data exchange. However, most of our efforts for cross-border data exchanges are about designing documents and setting up connection between countries. I'm going to list some details to cross-border data exchange with a case, with its case. Currently, Korea Customs is exchanging still data with China and Indonesia, and the project with Vietnam is on track. And we are discussing with Singapore and India. Korea Customs single window provides 4 kinds of technology methods for exchanging electronic messages: MQ, message queue, web service SOAP, web service RESTful, and blockchain. In the case of China, we are exchanging messages with IBM solution. The solution has been being used for exchanging data between China and smaller countries. Actually, Singapore colleagues mentioned about that things. And to expedite the process of the project, Korea Customs accepted the MQ that China stated we should use. And in the case of Indonesia and Vietnam, SOAP protocol has been applied for exchange data. The most accustomed method for exchanging XML. And the RESTful is newly considered method for exchange data. We are supposed to test RESTful to India, and using RESTful is already verified in our operating environment, and also already to be applied. And lastly, the blockchain is the technology used for our pilot project. I will just briefly show you the structure of our message exchange between China and also Korea Customs. We are using IBM message queue. By using the message queue, we are exchanging 2 kinds of XML documents. One is about exchanging CO data and also export declaration items. And one is about just getting the feedback XML documents. The feedback document is to know the status of declaration related to the CO, CO data. And also in the case of Vietnam, Vietnam is also has a similar structure with the Indonesia, because they are belong into the ASEAN single window, and they are using similar specification for exchanging data. You might, until now, I have introduced our experience of cross-border data exchange, and there are pros and cons with the way of our conducting. And thank you for listening my presentation. Yes, thank you. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miriam Kim. It was very interesting to hear from the Korean perspective, the single window implementation on national level, interoperability on national level, the exchange of information with the regulatory agencies, starting with the 8 agencies initially. And it was also interesting to hear not only how it is happening, the approach of the interoperability, but also you have mentioned the international standards, the relevance for the mapping to the international standards, the harmonization of data, as well as the technology used for the exchange of information. So it was very interesting, and we have some interesting questions already in the Q&A. With this quick note, let me please go to the next speaker, Mr. Fakri Rozi Ormar from Indonesian Single Window. He has several roles, several hats in this organization. So I will mention just one: Directorate of Quality Assurance, Indonesian National Single Window. Mr. Fakri, you are welcome to start your presentation.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Amin, and have a very good afternoon to everyone. So let me share my screen first. Okay, so continuing what the other speakers already convey for these sessions, I would like to inform also sharing some experiences from Indonesia, especially from the Indonesia National Single Window. In this case, I would like to begin with the concept of the National Single Window itself in Indonesia, because it's quite unique. In Indonesia, we have a saying the Indonesian National Window as an environment. So environment meaning that if you may see the blue plate in the screen, so the blue plate itself is the Indonesia National Single Window, but the system itself, the system itself would be like this. This is the system of the National Single Window. So it's become the hub. there are 15 government agencies being integrated from with the Indonesian National Single Window, both for the export and also the import activities. And there are a group of them. There are TradeNet for the trade agencies and also the PortNet, the agencies. And also meaning that we are also become the hub for the data exchange between Indonesia and also the other national single window from the country partners. In such case, this kind of environment has enabled us to provide the executive information system for the Indonesian government to support the strategic decision making in any policies related with the cargo clearance, with the import and export activities. So what does exactly that the strategic tools that enable Indonesia to connect with the other national single window of Indonesia's partner? There are two of them. First is the Asian Single Window Gateway itself. As we all know that within the Asian Single Window, we already managed to exchange the electronic CO, IFOM di A3, and also the upcoming one would be the Asian Customs Declarations documents and also the e-FITO. So in this gateway, we connected with the other 9 Asian member states to exchange these documents. On the other way, Indonesia also has developed our own gateway. We call it as a INSW gateway, where it enables us to exchange bilaterally with the Korea to exchange the ECO under the AKFTA, and also with China under the Asian-China FTA. In addition to that, we also exchange with the Australia for the TRQ certificate. It's a kind of a e-FITO certificate, and also with the Singapore for the bilateral Asian Customs Declarations documents. In terms of the platform itself, the gateway itself for Indonesia, it's quite flexible because maybe later on the next slides I will explain more about the National Single Window Gateway. But the thing is, the Asian-Korea exchange with Indonesia, we start to implement on, I think it's February 2020, and also with the China start from June 2020. And the TRQ itself with the Australia, we start by May this year, 2021. And the ACD with Singapore, I think we are going to come with in the last round to test for the ACD exchange bilateral with the Singapore. So this is the quite technical information about the gateway itself, but I would go through one by one. So the Asian Single Window Gateway itself, as we know that all the Asian member states has their own gateway for the Asian Single Window, but the gateway itself connected to each other, and all of them also connected with the Regional Services Gateway in the Asian Secretariat. So the information is like a point-to-point communications between one member states to the other member states. And currently, we managed to exchange with the ECO, and the upcoming one would be the ACDD. And as you may see, this is the national single window of each country, and this is for Indonesia. So in such case, our national single window connected with the Asian Single Window Gateway being deployed to each of the member states. And then this Asian Single Window Gateway will also communicate with the other Asian Single Window of the other member states. So this is how the Asian Single Window Gateway works currently. And we are about to deploy the common message header. Basically, it's the way for the gateway to recognize the other form of electronic data, not just the ECO, but also the ACDD and also the e-FITO that is going to be exchanged later on. And the next one is the Indonesia Single Window Gateway. So I would like to quote one of the architecture that we developed with the Australia just now. So basically, we already exchanged the TRQ certificate. It's a kind of e-FITO certificate. So basically, we provide our partner with the gateway. The concept, it's like a traditional postbox. If you see in the road, in the streets, in the traditional street, if you want just to send a message to your parents or maybe to your relatives in the hometown, you just put or drop your message there, and then the post officer will take your message and then send it to the receiver. So that's kind of approach that we develop electronically in this gateway. And again, this is independently developed by Indonesia. We don't use any tools, so that's why it's quite flexible for us to implement. And we managed to exchange with Korea, China, and then Australia, and also it's about to be live with Singapore, to exchange different kind and format of data. So this is how we interoperability way for Indonesia to exchange with the other countries partner. So in detail, currently the industry gateway have a different mailboxes. So as you may see, we have Korea here, we have Australia, we also have China, and we are about to discuss about Japan for the other FTA. So basically we only have one gateway. So any country's partner, either it's Korea, China, Japan, and the other partners it's going to exchange with us, they are going to use the same gateway. So for Indonesia, it's easy for us to maintain. And the good thing about this gateway, all the agreed security and also type and format of the message itself, it depends on bilateral agreement. So the gateway itself doesn't rule you on what is going to be exchanged. It's just how to exchange it. But the means, the type of the documents, the structures, the format, maybe you can use the XML, PDF, even JSON, you can just exchange using the same gateway. Because once the message coming to this gateway, it's already encrypted. And how does the encrypted method? It's going to be based on the agreed from both parties. So moving forward to the domestic approach from Indonesia. So basically INSW have in the process to develop the next generations of INSW. So these are the modules that we are developing currently. We have the single submissions for the permit and licenses and the customs declarations. So basically we try to provide a single laptop, if I may say, for the traders. And the traders itself can be start from the exporter and also the importers, and also for the liner itself, and also for them to deal with the government of Indonesia. So you can exchange about the customs declarations from here from National Single Window. You can also apply for the permit and licenses, and later on in the next slides I will go deep a little bit about this. And also if you are the liner, if you are a shipping line, you want to submit any manifest, any documents related with the port declarations, then you can also submit it through National Single Window. And if you also want to get some fiscal facilities from the government, especially for the oil gas industry, then you can also apply from the National Single Window. And then later on, the National Single Window will provide you like a bridging step for you to connect with the other government agencies related. So this is one of the small module of the National Single Window next generation. It's about the permit and licenses. So before we have these next generations, as you may see, the National Single Window itself is in the back layer of the process. So basically the trader has to go to each of the government agencies to apply for the permit and also the licenses. And once the permit and licenses is being approved or given by the agencies, they will send the data electronic to National Single Window. So start from there, the data electronic would be reconciliate with the customs declarations and so on. But for the next generations, we try to move the layer of the National Single Window in front of the traders. So basically they have to deal only one platform for them to communicate with the governments. So this that's again, as I said, we try to provide one laptop for the traders to communicate with Indonesia's government in terms of the cargo clearances. So in this case, it would be easier for them to reuse the data because they don't have to submit a multiple data, just like our colleague from Singapore said, there's like 60 to 70% data being reused, and they have to resubmit it again and again. But by having this in one place in the very beginning of the process, it can be reused at any time. That's the first thing. The second one, the integrity data and profile of the trader itself can be managed nationally. So then the Indonesian government can provide an equal treatment in terms of the risk management. So that's why we call it as like Indonesia single risk management, because by having set the traders to communicate to one platform, so then all the agencies behind it, they will get the detail or the profile detail of the stakeholders based on the traders profile being developed in the National Single Window. And in that case also, we have contributions from the government agencies to advise us the risk profile of each of the traders. So let's say Mr. Armin want to import something to Indonesia. And in this case, Mr. Armin need to have a permit from Ministry of Finance, Ministry of Trade, and also the FDA. So there is no way, again, Mr. Armin can be recognized as a golden trader differently between FDA and also the Ministry of Trade, because you have the National Single Window already recognize you with a single risk profile. So then if Mr. Armin have a problem, let's say become a blacklist in the Ministry of Trade, then simply you cannot just deal with the other agencies, because this one agency already informed the National Single Window that, okay, Mr. Armin become our blacklist. So please do not provide any service to Mr. Armin. That's the simple of it. And in such case also, the National Single Window have implemented the AI, the artificial intelligence, in terms of the providing suggestion on, let's say, if you want to import, you only know exactly what kind of commodity you are going to import. So then the National Single Window will advise you what is exactly the permit and also licenses need to be applied or need to be, you have to, before you import the goods itself. So in such case, there is no way for you to submit declarations without knowing that, without knowing the exact documents or permit or licenses that you have to submit to the customs declarations. So it will help the speed of the customs clearance, the cargo clearances, because you already know in advance if there is any requirement that you have to submit, then you have to fulfill it before you submit the customs declarations. And in terms of the government agencies itself, we have developed the decision supporting system. So by having this one process into one single point of contact, so it would be easier for the government agencies to move from the manual approval to become auto approval, because once everything is already in front and then it's already checked by the National Single Window, then you can just say, okay, I can agree. So then automatically they can just send the approval without having to require any hard copy or maybe any further analysis about the requirements. So these are the sample, one of the sample just now during the COVID pandemic situations. I think it's only in February of 2020. So by the time on that periods, we kind of have an issue about the mask, the face mask, and so also the personal protective equipment. So some of the traders in Indonesia try to export, but then Indonesian government also has to ensure that the supply of this personal protective equipment, and also the face mask, and even the material to develop the mask itself, it's already fulfilled for the national supply. So then traditionally, they have to go to the Ministry of Trade to apply, and then have to go to the customs to get the facilities in terms of the export. By having that, we developed these systems. I think it's only like 2 months for us to develop this because we already have a long stories communications in terms of the data exchange with Ministry of Trade and also the customs systems. So it will be easier for us to develop just a simple module for it. And so by this, the exportee just go to National Single Window and then apply. They just put a simple applications to our portal. And then we have a agreed SLA between the Ministry of Trade and also the customs, whereby if in certain period of time there is no response from the Ministry of Trade, for example, and if all the requirements are already fulfilled by the checklist within the National Single Window, and it can be also proceed automatically to the customs to get the facilities. So by having this data into one systems, we managed to develop the business analytic data, because it is very important for Indonesia's government to monitor the national supply and demand, and also to monitor who is exactly the actors involved in this type of business. So in such case, we managed to ensure that its national supply first become the priority before we start to sending or export these commodities to the other countries. And also apply the same for the vaccines, for the import activities. So related with the COVID pandemic, we are importing the vaccines for sure, and also the medical devices to develop the vaccine itself independently in Indonesia. So in this case, there are FDA, Indonesian FDA, and also the Ministry of Health, because to import these medical devices and also the vaccines, these are the agencies being involved. So then by now the importer, if they want to import any vaccines or medical devices, they will submit to National Single Window, this one. They will request for the import permit and also the import duty waiver. So because the import duty waiver will go to the customs, but the permit itself will come from the FDA and also the Ministry of Health. So there are three types of business process at the same time can be processed by simply submitting one simple and also documentation. I think that will be the prevalent is just the dashboard that we have based on the National Single Window we have. We managed to develop these analytic tools. So the takeout would be basically the single window based on the UN Commission of Europe saying that it's a facility actually to standardize information and documents to be a single entry point. And our main object is also single automation is just the initial stage. But when you gain the valuable insight from your data, then it's your start winning way to continuously improve your business process. And Indonesia itself, the INSWC environment, it's not just a systems, because it consists of the commitment from the related GAs to collaborate, and the ultimate goal is to provide like an integrated public service for cargo clearance processes, whereby the National Single Window System become the hub domestically and also internationally. I think that would be it, Mr. Amin, from us. Thank you very much. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for this very comprehensive presentation. I mean, I see that you are fully expert of the Indonesian single window, and you have all the replies and let's say answers to all the questions. I would like to invite you also to look to the Q&A session, because I see there that there are some questions for you as well. You can also follow up there. It was very interesting to hear about the new approach regarding the Indonesian single window gateway and how it works within the Asian single windows gateways and how it connects with other countries and what is the new approach for that. It was also very interesting to see that the upgraded version is going to provide one platform, one interface for all the economic operators. I mean, you have covered so many aspects, very interesting. I would be even happy, and I'm sure many of our attendees would be very happy to follow up with you to find out more about that system. Thank you for that. And with this quick note, I would like to start with the new next session that we are going to have for the panel discussion or panel intervention, we can say. I would like to start maybe with the Mr. SP Sahu from the World Bank. He's a senior trade facilitation specialist from the World Bank. He has very huge experience in international standards, and he has been working closely for the implementation of the Indian single window and supporting other countries from the World Bank perspective and also from the WCO perspective to implement the single window systems. Unfortunately, he's joining us from Washington, so we have a pre-recorded video because it's too early in Washington. Now we will hear his intervention from the pre-recorded video. Thank you, Parn.
Good afternoon, dear colleagues. In my brief intervention, I'll briefly talk about how in a national single window project, we remain invested in ensuring interoperability. National single windows are predicated on the interoperability of various systems working together. At the World Bank, we help countries implement national single windows and customs computer systems, and we take interoperability very seriously. Interoperability refers to the ability of computer systems and software to exchange and utilize information to deliver a service to an end user. So, how do we ensure interoperability in national single window systems? Well, the answer is to begin at the very beginning. In single window projects, we usually begin by the development of a blueprint. So in the preparatory phase, a blueprint is prepared covering different aspects of interoperability, and I will go into that in a second. But once the blueprint is finalized, the project team prepares the terms of reference and the request for proposal, and then finds a blueprint, a single window implementer, and the single window is then implemented through the development and implementation phase. Once the implementation phase is completed, then the system moves on to regular operations and maintenance, during which the project team either upgrades or carries out ongoing development to keep the single window current. Let's look at the amount of effort invested into interoperability. What we see is that most of the effort occurs in the preparatory phase when the blueprint is prepared, and then during the development and implementation phase, the effort to ensure interoperability continues, but then gradually tapers off, and then in the operational phase it remains at a stable level, which means that we have to begin seriously on interoperability and over time remain invested into interoperability. The European Interoperability Framework is an excellent model to discuss and implement interoperability. The framework is a guide to designing and delivering public services that are easy to connect to. It is helpful in removing barriers between users, IT systems, and services. The framework comprises legal interoperability to ensure that legislation is coherent with the concept of operations and is better aligned to the digital era. It includes organizational interoperability that allows citizens, businesses, and administrations to link with each other into a single digital framework through transparent and simple procedures. It includes interoperability that allows open and common standards that ensure that the data can be exchanged because they are defined and formatted in a compatible way. It includes technical interoperability that allows ICT systems that are both legacy and current systems that can talk to each other effortlessly and seamlessly. So, under the World Bank methodology, the single window project team, comprising working groups and a project steering committee, develops and adopts what we call a blueprint, which ensures that the foundational elements of interoperability are in place. The project team is assisted by expert consultants whenever required. The various elements of the blueprint are prepared in a sequence in which it is shown in this diagram. We begin with the legal framework, go on to the governance and operational model, develop the financial model. We carry out the business process modeling and data harmonization, develop service level agreements and memoranda of understanding. We also cover the risk management model and strategy. We define the technical and functional architecture, and then we cover all of those into an implementation and capacity building plan. The summary of interoperability recommendations are captured in what we call the blueprint summary. Here is how the elements of the EU interoperability governance framework stack up with the blueprint components. So the legal interoperability aspects are covered in the legal and regulatory framework, as well as the service level definitions and service level agreements and the memoranda of understanding that are developed between the various operating parties. The organizational interoperability is more prevalent in the various blueprint components. They can be found in the governance and operating model, the revenue and fee structure, the business process and data harmonization models, and the risk management strategy and models. The semantic interoperability is focused mostly on the business process model and the data model, and the process of data harmonization produces the elements of interoperability that we need in the single window system. Lastly, the technical interoperability is ensured through the definition of the various technical components in the technical and functional architecture. Well, in a nutshell, that is how we ensure that we make the national single window an interoperable solution. And we begin very strongly at the beginning to ensure that the blueprint captures all of the elements of interoperability. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for this intervention from SP Sahu, from Satya Prasad. It is very interesting to hear. Of course, when we are talking about interoperability, we have several aspects to cover, and SP Sahu mentioned exactly those aspects. What is made of the interoperability? The legal interoperability is very important, and I know that there are many international organizations dealing with that legal interoperability. Technical interoperability, where we have the international standards to comply with, to assure that interoperability is easily applicable also to other stakeholders. And following that, organizational interoperability and other aspects. I would like to go to the next intervention on the panel, and I would like to invite Mr. John David, Information System Officer, United Nations Conference Trade and Development from UNCTAD. I think everyone is aware that UNCTAD is the organization that is providing ICQD award, is, let's say, deemed to be a very efficient customs automated management system, and also seen as the single window operation system from many customs administration. And I know that there are many efforts from UNCTAD. It is very much appreciated that international organization is doing all the efforts to enable many countries to plug and play, let's say, solution to plug and play single window systems. And there are many efforts also to add different models that are going to help to enable the future of interoperability across the borders. Mr. John David, the floor is yours. You are welcome to share your perspective, your organization perspective on interoperability across the borders.
Thank you. You confirm you see my screen in the presentation?
Confirmed. Confirmed.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to everybody. UNCTAD, and more specifically the ICQD program, has had an increasing experience in interoperability at all levels over the last 10-15 years. As a brief reminder, ICQD is the automated system for customs data, celebrating 40 years of existence in 2021, and today present in 99 to 100 countries and territories. Those 99 to 100 countries and territories include 7 Asian countries and 11 countries in the Pacific today. Let's talk first about national interoperability. The core system of ICQD, ICQD World, the customs IT system, plus the building of electronic single windows, has led us to ensure a certain degree of interoperability. Using the core customs IT system, interoperability with the many stakeholders involved, notably traders, authorized economic operators, and shipping lines, is practically ensured in 99.9% of all the countries today. Over 60% of countries using ICQD today are using electronic payment, therefore guaranteeing interoperability with the banks on a daily basis, some countries ranging up into the thousands of transactions. We also have interoperability between customs and the post office for the type of consignments that post office deal with, notably the CN22. In terms of building electronic single windows, we are currently involved in 13 member states who have built or are building electronic single windows based on the ICQD platform, and therefore guaranteeing the interoperability with a number of OGA, other governmental agencies, and therefore forming part of the e-government and the national interoperability. Some of these agencies include standards organizations, which then link up with international bodies. Also at the national level, we have the airlines and the carriers who with customs interact, notably at the manifest and bill of lading data. And this can either be in ICQD format or in the IATA format, whom we've been working with. So on top of the single window initiatives that we have, we also have some derived products which sit in complementary with ICQD. Notably on the top right-hand side, ASI Hub, which is a data integration platform which will soon be piloted in Cambodia and Sri Lanka in the Asian region, which is a module dedicated to exchange of data and interoperability at the national and international level. Also present in Georgia, Gibraltar, and Vanuatu is the Postal Customs Data module, ensuring interoperability with national post offices and at the international level with the Universal Postal Union. I will come back to that. In Mozambique and Sri Lanka, in Sri Lanka it is already deployed, in Mozambique it's just starting. We have the eCities application for the permits for wildlife and fauna and flora in a conjunction with the CITES Secretariat. And that involves national interoperability between agencies and the wildlife agencies, plus at the international level between the exporters, importers, and vice versa. And note also the presence of a passenger processing module for immigration present today in Vanuatu, linking up with immigration systems. Some examples of national interoperability in the Asia region, notably Timor-Leste, who are building their electronic single window today based on Asikuda, and their interoperability with the stakeholders has already been present for many years, and now they are building the full national single window with a number of different ministries and governmental agencies. In Sri Lanka, they have the precursor of a single window with their implementation of Asikuda, where they are already interoperating with notably the Sri Lankan T-Board, a very important agency in their country, and the standards institutions and other units, and therefore already ready to therefore have an electronic single window for international trade. And as I mentioned, AsiHub, our latest data exchange platform, will be piloted in the coming months. Bangladesh is also a very good example in the Asian region, who are building a single window, but have already established interoperability at the governmental level with many different institutions and agencies, notably the Transport Authority, Standards Boards, banks, vessel management, and their container terminal system. All the gray parts are all the agencies and institutions with which they'll be linking up in a future electronic single window, therefore guaranteeing their national interoperability. At the international interoperability level, there are a number of different initiatives and successes based on Asikuda as the customs IT system, notably in Afghanistan, who are doing live data exchange dynamically every day with Tajikistan and Iran, whose customs IT systems are not Asikuda. But Asikuda does allow them to make that international dynamic data exchange. We also have interactions at interoperability at the international level with the International Road Union, the World Trade Organization, International Trade Center, Universal Postal Union, where we link up with the postal system in each country, which then communicates and guarantees the interoperability at an international level for parcels and other such consignments. Cross-border trader exchange, guaranteeing international interoperability, is also notably in the eCities application using the EPICS format to communicate internationally the permit data. And we are now building an NCTS transit system for Georgia, which will be fully integrated into the EU and for all transit data from Georgia going outside to the EU or any other member state. AsiHub, I mentioned, is one of our latest products, therefore ensuring international interoperability based on data exchange with any system, with any technology that they might have. eCities and AsiPCD are also will be heavily involved in international interoperability in the coming months and years. One of the triggers that has led us to be significantly involved in interoperability at the international level with our customs IT system and building electronic single window are partnerships that have been established with international agencies, international organizations, and different institutions who require data and data exchange with customs and electronic single windows. And we therefore assist through those partnerships in guaranteeing that the interoperability between the customs IT system, Asikuda, and the electronic single windows can happen in the most dynamic and seamlessly and transparent way possible. Thank you very much. This concludes the intervention. Thank you.
Mr. John David, thank you very much for this interesting presentation. I mean, it is always amazing to hear how UNCTAD has achieved so big number of countries, how many countries have benefited from your efforts to support the countries to enable automated processing systems within customs. which, I mean, in progress and evaluation have become the basis to building single window systems on national level. And it is very interesting to hear that you are already piloting a system, a module for the ICQDA award to interoperate on international level. As I heard correctly, it's Cambodia and Sri Lanka that you are going to first pilot it. It was very interesting to hear. I would be happy to follow up on that and to have more information about that. Thank you for that very much. I would like to go to our next speaker, Ms. Ramla Haji Mukhtar. She is Senior Assistant Director of Royal Malaysian Customs, but she also covers already for several years chairs the Asian Single Window Technical Working Group. Ms. Ramla Haji Mukhtar, please, you are welcome to make your intervention. Thank you.
Thank you, Arman, fellow panelists, presenters, and webinar participants. It is a great honor for me to share with you some views and experience on single window interoperability within the context of ASEAN single window, which is a good example of regional interoperability. As we already know that ASEAN single window interoperability has been established for regional integration to promote economic growth, as well as for other specific purposes, such as risk management, advanced security of trade-related declaration. ESW has been fully operationalized since 2019, and ASEAN member states have been exchanging cross-border information and document electronically end-to-end through ASEAN single window gateway. The exchange documents are namely ATIGA E-Form-D Certificate of Origin, which has been exchanged by the 10 member states, and ASEAN Customs Declaration document ACDD export information is being exchanged by 6 member states for now. Additional electronic information or document to be exchanged, such as e-phyto certificates, e-food safety by different agencies are already in the pipeline and will be operationalized once member states are ready to exchange. Exchanging of electronic information with dialogue partners are already being negotiated by member states, and we have initial negotiation with some dialogue partners regarding the potential documents to be exchanged, especially with regard to certificate of origin. And this electronic exchange regionally has been made possible for trade facilitation once all the 10 member states have reached consensus and agreement on different aspects of interoperability, among others, from the perspective of legal, on the legal protocol, on the legal framework that provides legal basis for the operations, interactions, and electronic processing of cross-border transactions within ASEAN single window environment. In terms of the technical aspects, data harmonization and standardization to enable interoperability of heterogeneous system of single windows in each ASEAN member state, which need to be in compliance with international standard like UN CIFA, WTO data model, SMA, and so on. For deployment of common ASEAN single window gateway software at each member state under distributed model. Business process alignment for standardized and harmonized regulatory procedure for each document to be exchanged. And it is important to note that the ASEAN single window interoperability has significantly supported trade facilitation for effective cross-border processing of trade-related information to expedite custom clearance, in this case, for instance, the certificate of origin. So if I can highlight a few, the benefits of having ASEAN single window interoperability in place to both government and trading community would be part and parcel of the trade facilitating measure, which are generally to reduce transaction costs and time of doing business. For instance, when we have the E-Form-D information received almost immediately from issuing authority for faster customs clearance in getting the preferential treatment. It also to expedite cargo clearance process and release of goods for cross-border trade, to improve trader compliance by getting accurate, reliable information directly from the source on origin of goods, to enhance security of trade-related information along the supply chain, to increase integrity and transparency of cross-border procedure or formalities involved, and to manage effective and efficient deployment of resources for better risk management on pre-arrival information. So it is undeniable that this regional interoperability is extremely critical for cross-border paperless trade, which requires digitalization of documents and streamlined procedures across border to promote digital economy, especially and particularly in the current environment, the booming of e-commerce, paperless trading, easy and quick access to trade-related information or document is a must for trade facilitation along the supply chain. Further, this interoperability has assisted and supported member states and relevant parties to share reliable electronic information to boost cross-border procedural efficiency and facilitate seamless trade in the region. So by leveraging single window interoperability for trade facilitation, it plays a key role in maintaining and expediting the flow of goods across border during and after pandemic crisis by ensuring access to essential supplies and mitigating the negative economic impact of trade disruptions. So during this difficult time, there is an increasing need for all parties to speed up contactless border procedures, thus by making available automated processing or trade-related information is totally a blessing in disguise in the ASEAN region. So this interoperability will ensure the critical goods move freely, minimize physical inspections through efficient risk management on the pre-arrival information and reduce human interactions. However, the journey to establish ESW interoperability has not always been a smooth sailing, and we do face a lot of challenges in several aspects. In terms of planning and preparation costs, parties or member states at different levels of economic development and technical development, so they have kind of different interests and expectations on the regional single window, and the result is quite difficult for them to have a common understanding on the regional costs. And in terms of consensus, ASEAN member state requires more time to come to an agreement and common understanding on each decision to be made. For regional interoperability, standardization for interoperability or heterogeneous system will be challenging, and business process re-engineering needs to be carried out to streamline the cross-border processes, followed by data harmonization involving different parties and agencies across border. And as well as the different agencies and parties involved for each member state, definitely there will be a challenge in coordinating of the sectoral bodies that need to have the same understanding regarding the cross-cutting issues and so on. So that will be all for me on the some views on the regional interoperability that we already in place in the ASEAN region. Thank you. Thank you for the attention.
Dr. Ramala Haji, thank you very much for this intervention. I would like to say that I loved your intervention because you made the emphasis that we needed for this moment, because you emphasize the advantages of interoperability, how it is important for after COVID to support the digital economy, to support the economy across the borders. It is very important. You also mentioned some of the challenges that are still persisting. With this one, I would like to thank you all the speakers, presenters, and the panelists for the intervention. I would like also to mention that actually in the Q&A, I see that speakers, presenters already replied to many of the questions raised in the Q&A session, but still we have some minutes. We are, I mean, a little bit behind the schedule, but we have some minutes. I can dedicate 5 minutes to all those questions that I think important were not raised. I can open the floor for maybe 3 questions if we have from the floor. If there is no questions from the floor, I will just pick up some very important questions from the Q&A session and raise it. Do we have, and I would like just to mention something. Please, if I open the floor and we have questions, please be very short and concise with your questions. Not make any comments or introduction, just target the question and to the speaker or to all the panelists or all to the speakers. Now I would like to open the floor to see if we have any questions. Otherwise, I will raise them from the Q&A. If anyone have any questions, they can raise a hand. We can see, and we can open the floor for the questions.
Yes, we see one hand. Oh, 2. From
Okay.
Uma.
I don't see those hands, but if you see Parn, please, you can
Yes.
open the floor.
Okay, I allow him to talk now.
Thank you.
Okay, please unmute yourself. Uma Mohammed Mahmoud, right? Are you here? Hello. Hello. If you're not here, maybe I switch to another attendees. Okay. Okay, Jonathan, go. You can take the floor now.
Thank you. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question for John David, and thank you, John, for your presentation. Very, very interesting. I have just a couple of questions. You have your new product, Asikuda Hub, and is the Asikuda Hub positioned to to allow Asikuda systems in various countries to interoperate? Meaning that some of the countries, I saw that you got 12 countries using Asikuda as single window. And today we are talking about single window interoperability. So for those countries, Asikuda single window, are they going to interoperate using Asikuda Hub? That's the first question. The second question is that I also see you mentioned Sri Lanka and Cambodia. And these countries, for example, Cambodia, is using a separate single window, not the Asikuda, a separate NSW. So do you see how Cambodia single window would also interoperate with other single window using the Asikuda Hub, similarly to those that using Asikuda single window? Thank you very much.
Thank you. I'll reply to the second question first. Cambodia and Sri Lanka, the objective of the ASI-Hub pilots is purely for the maritime domain for the moment. And the single windows in Cambodia will not be linked with ASI-Hub. It'll be linking purely with the Asikuda system and only for maritime domain at the early stages. Regarding ASI-Hub, the 13 countries who have a single window or building an electronic single window based on the Asikuda platform are not presently using ASI-Hub. ASI-Hub will only be piloted in these 2 countries for now, and then we'll take it from there to see how that evolves for possible use for the electronic single windows that we are implementing. The electronic single windows that we have implemented or are implementing are not using ASI-Hub. They're using other means for data exchange. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Parn, do we have any other hands raised? Or...
Yes. Uma, are you here?
We can go with another couple of questions, maybe, not more.
Yes, we can move to the rest of the question that haven't answered yet. Kitchen, do you want to take the floor for your question?
Oh, okay. Thank you, Paul. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah. So my question is about how to facilitate trade financing through national single window. I saw the Singapore's NTP is facilitating trade financing, for example, invoice factoring. So I'm just wondering if other countries' national single window systems are also supporting this kind of functions like trade financing. That's all. Thanks.
Thank you very much for this question, Mr. Pijin. This question, I think, was raised to Ms. Teo Ng.
No, actually, I think the question was raised to the rest.
Oh,
just
yes,
for
yes.
Singapore, yeah.
Not to Singapore, to other countries,
Okay.
for example,
Other countries.
Yeah, Korea and Indonesia and Malaysia.
Ms. Miryang, Ms. Fakri, do you have any information regarding the trade financing capabilities of single window platform, or you have anything in plan to implement this kind of modules, or any aspects regarding that?
Yeah, Mr. Amin from Indonesia.
Please.
Yeah. So currently we haven't implement in terms of to support the trade financing activity for sure, but in terms of the business entities. But for the government, for example, we are exploring with the Central Bank of Indonesia. So because there is a need for the central bank to monitor and also to review the compliance of the business entities in terms of the export activities. So they are working together with the SWIFT organizations to monitor the what do you call it, the transfer activity with the customs declarations and also with the report from the traders itself. So that's how we support the government in this case, not yet for the private sectors, but in the wave to develop the next generations, we also exploring the open API for any entities, both private and also the governments. It depends on what kind of support data that they require, but for sure it's only the trader that has the data if they want to use it for the other business process. So if there is any specific trade institutions want to consume the data, then we have to review first what kind of the data they need, and then we have to communicate first with the data owner. For example, for the traders, so we cannot just exchange and also deliver the data. But if you want to compare, currently we have with the tax agencies in Indonesia. So one of the information from the tax agencies is about the traders profile and also the compliance in terms of tax reporting. So it's become one of the baseline to develop the risk profile of the entities. Mr. Amin.
Mr. Fakri, thank you very much for this reply. It is well noted. I would like to see if we have any other replies from the speakers. If not, I think I can still permit one more question, not more, and we should go to listen to the representatives of ESCAP for the closing remarks.
We have one more hand raised.
Yes, please, for the person who is raising the question and for whom is going to reply, please be as much as possible concise, because we are running out of time. Thank you.
Okay, this question from Charan Singh. Okay, go ahead.
Hello. Yes, it is a pleasure to hear all of you on this major project of single window. I just want to know, is there any of these countries like Singapore, Indonesia, or Korea who has been doing an integrated single window, that is with customs and integrating with the trade, that is the trade community, basically the cargo handling corporations, the maritime part and all that, basically as an integrated solution? And as well, is there any possibility where the revenue side, that is the tax side, also is integrated in a single system? So because today when we're talking about the single window, each country has their own concept and requirements. But at the end of the day, if all is integrated, that would be an interesting project, which is sharing of information among all the stakeholders around. So my question is has there been any such project been in place in the Asia Pacific region. Thank you.
Thank you, Charan Singh. Nice to hear your voice. Also for the previous person, Jonathan Ko, that raised question. It was very interesting to have this question because I see that Mauritius always has a very forward-looking perspective on the implementation of single window. Therefore, this question, I think, was mentioned. If two speakers, presenters, they have any aspects to share regarding this question, or anyone else, if they have any perspective on how this kind of implementation can take place, if anyone have in their plan to do this kind of implementation, you are welcome to provide your insightful replies.
Hi, Aman. I will attempt to do a very quick. I know we're running out of time, so I think it's a good question. In fact, I think integration of not just the government agency systems, as well as also the port authority systems, which might be privately owned in some cases, is the way to go in future. And that is exactly also why we have actually built the trade platform, the network trade platform. Of course, it's not an easy task. Actually, linking up among the government agencies is already difficult. I think Singapore managed to do so only because we started early and we just made everyone come together. So that political will is actually quite important. And then with the port authorities coming in, I think what we are also aiming for in future is to establish a kind of a track and trace kind of system so that there is greater transparency in the entire supply chain, and we can better serve the needs of what we want to achieve eventually, which is to have cross-border paperless trade facilitation. And we can't do it only with the government authorities. We also need private sector, and we also need the port authorities, everyone on board in order to make that happen. So yeah, one step at a time. Yeah, that's all, Aman.
Thank you very much, Mr. ONG. As always, you have emphasized very important aspects when we are talking about single window. We need to have political will, and we need to have everyone on board to be able to progress and to also to implement such kind of sophisticated features and integrating the economic operators, maybe not only the big ones, but also the medium level. Thank you very much. From my side, I would like to say that it was amazing to have so many people from different parts of the world. Thank you for all the speakers, presenters. Without going too much in that aspect, I would like just to say that I think we targeted the topic very precisely. We have had a lot of participants. Now I would like to pass the floor to Sangwon Lin from the ESCAP representative, who is going to make the closing remarks. Sangwon, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Arman. So great job done. So on behalf of the organizers, my extended thanks again goes to the speakers, panelists, and all the participants to make this webinar very useful. I myself had a chance to learn a lot from this rich discussion. So while I'm making some comment, actually there is one more question from Mr. Muhammad on the Q&A. So in case anyone can answer, any of the speakers can answer that question, please try to do. So from the intervention of the speakers and panelists, it is clear that interoperability among single windows involves much government-to-government data exchange. And for successful government-to-government data exchange, a policy-level commitment and mandate is essential. As Mr. Duval highlighted in his remarks, the new UN treaty called the Framework Agreement on Facilitation of Cross-Border Paper Trade in Asia and the Pacific is available to secure a strong political mandate for initiating cross-border paperless data exchange and develop a common solution. There is a question that ESCAP should play a more role to harmonize these paperless trade approaches, and there is also a question that to how to integrate or interconnect even within the country's paperless trade systems. And joining this framework agreement would provide a strong political mandate to move toward that direction. And this agreement also has a strong capacity building provision to support, as there are many countries in need in Asia and the Pacific region. So ESCAP member states are highly encouraged to join this framework agreement as soon as possible. And in this connection, I would like to ask my colleague to play a short 1-minute video on the framework agreement. So, Ban, please.
Okay.
So the organizers would appreciate if participants can spend a bit of time in completing a small survey. Your feedback will be helpful for organizers to improve our future events and to make them more relevant and useful. So the link to the survey can be found at the chatting window because my colleague would share it there. And lastly, the organizers would like to inform you of the next webinar. The webinars are organized as part of the webinar series, and the next webinar will be held on 16th August next month, and the focus on blockchain for cross-border paper trade. So details on the next webinar would be available soon on the webinar series website. So please kindly mark your calendar and revisit the webinar series webpage. And indeed, if you would like, you can already register yourself through the link shared in the chatting window. So again, thank you for all participation and contribution. And we hope to see you again in the next webinar. So thank you again and bye-bye.
Bye, everyone. And thank you for your time joining us.
Thank you.